Hey guys, okay, so I apologize for dropping off the face of the planet for a couple weeks. I've been tying up the loose ends of a few projects I've been finishing on South Africa, as well as finishing up a whole secret project with Brittany that I can't announce yet. But I feel like my channel kind of ended on a pretty dark note with my last interview with Martin on nihilism and depression and how we're all doomed.
Millennials today, it's all boredom and nihilism.
Yeah, I think that was his last quote, and I just kind of was like, okay, see you guys for 2 weeks, just leave you with that black pill. And I figured it's not really fair to only talk about the problems, and that's a lot of what political YouTube channels do. They'll find feminists or something and be like, you're wrong, 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 wrong about all this. Whatever it may be, both sides, they identify the problem with another political class or identify the overarching problem in society, and they're like, here's why everything sucks. So this video, I thought it would be kind of nice to offer some solutions, I guess. Some things that have worked in our own lives and that we've seen work in others' lives. But first, just a recap for younger viewers or people who need a solid definition. Nihilism, the dictionary definition anyways, is the rejection of all religious and moral principles and the belief that life is meaningless. It can also encapsulate like cynicism, negativity, pessimism, and in a generation where people are so worried about the issues of, I'm never going to be able to own a house, with feminism overarching, I'm never even going to be able to have a family or proper relationships, lost a lot of my culture and history. People are looking for ways to improve themselves and their lives. So we've got 5 suggestions that have worked in our own lives and have, I guess, been an overarching solution for a lot of people. So I've written them in my diary here.
Which I have said is a bad idea to have, because if you lose it, then everybody has all your secrets. I have to keep a mental diary, that's all.
No, I'm an idiot. I actually had this diary confiscated by the UK government when I was detained, and they went through all of it in front of me, and I was just sitting there like, can you guys skip that page maybe? Just absolutely humiliated. Yeah, so you guys and the entire UK government get to read my diary. So the first solution is philosophy and self-knowledge. Of course, Brittany and I are not experts on these issues. If you want to dive down that rabbit hole of solutions to nihilism and understanding this craving and existential crisis you have, look into people. Obviously, Nietzsche is the expert on nihilism. And if you want a little more of a happier angle,
Heidegger. Heidegger is very complex and difficult. I wouldn't recommend going into him at first. I think Jordan Peterson even suggested creating a website to rewrite these really, really complex philosophers. You can rewrite it in simpler language and people can vote which is the best. So I think this is a good idea because apparently he's very dry and complex, but if you're up for that, maybe give him a try.
And if you want something easier, of course, there's 4 other steps in this video. And even people like modern philosophers like Jordan Peterson, his 12 rules for life, a lot of solutions and ways to cope with existence and the dark thoughts in your mind. And the other half to that was self-knowledge. These probably could have been 2 different steps, but I think they kind of play into each other. The self-knowledge aspect to it being trying to understand who you are and what your motives are in life, a kind of creating I guess, an identity that is based on more than just superficial things. A lot of people, you can tell, are searching for this identity because they say, look at people's Twitter bios. I'm Zer, I am trans, I am straight, I'm a conservative, I'm a liberal. They're just constantly creating groups and identities, and some of these are really superficial, some are deeper.
Mm-hmm. You need to find your identity that's unchanging. If you, for example, you adopt the emo identity, what if that's in fashion at this time like it was in the 2000s? Then when it goes out of fashion, you change. So you need something that's going to solidify, have a foundation, so that no matter what happens, you always remain the same. You're not just blown around like a bag in the wind, constantly changing. That's not a stable life, and I think it could actually end up causing nihilism.
This kind of brings me to the second point we have for a cure, and that is community, family, people in your life, friends that ground you and you're able to bounce ideas off of, you're able to get affirmation from. This is something that so many studies have been done on, that a sense of community gives people meaning.
I'll actually read a quick quote from a study that was done. The Journal for Happiness Studies suggests that humans are happier and feel more supported in collective environments where they get to work together and help each other out. A key find was in the study that people get happiness not just from doing things with others, but from doing things both with and for others. And I think it's important also to highlight that the community you choose needs to be a positive community, not a negative one. I think that people mostly inherently, they just understand that we're social creatures. So, for example, if someone doesn't have a community, they're very isolated. Some people join even gangs because in a sense, that's a family, a sense of community. So we gravitate towards it one way or the other. It's just, if it's not a positive one, if you have a bad experience in the community that you're in, then it can lead towards nihilism as well, I think.
In our very liberal society, individualism is something that is very worshipped. And I think people misunderstand individualism. In a political context, it can be good to judge people as individuals and everything, but that doesn't mean everything in your life should just be focused on how much money I'm going to make. How is this going to affect me? What am I gaining from this? A sense of duty and collectivity with the people around you is usually statistically a very healthy thing for your life. I always think about it this way. If I achieved all of the things I ever wanted to in my life, if I got all the money in the world, I had Ferraris, I got all of the plastic surgery to be perfect, whatever, look like Kim Kardashian, and there was no one else on the earth to look at it and observe it, who cares? Like, who cares? We do the things we do because we have other people to engage with us in them. So our society that is becoming ever more boxed in, focused on us and ourselves and not other people, I think that's a contributing factor to nihilism. Now, the next thing we have here is goal setting. Think about it in the sense of video games. When I play something, I haven't played games in a while because I've been quite busy, but when I was in university and I'd play something like Skyrim, I always got this sense of happiness, like this adrenaline in my brain when you achieved a quest, and then you would have this lists of quests to achieve after, and you're like, oh, how many can I achieve? How many levels can I get to? So you get a kick of happiness and meaning when you achieve and set goals, as well as I mean, just accomplishing something in this material existence.
There's a study that we found that says you're 42% more likely to go and actually try to accomplish this goal if you write it down, which is something I've actually seen in my own life. I create a schedule for myself day by day, and then I cross out things as I do them. There's such a sense of satisfaction. I'm sure other people get this too, but it's just like, I've been productive. This is amazing. So I'll do them for like 5 years, 5-year goals, and then like a month goal, and then day by day. So I do all of this, and I actually will do it.
It's Dominican University in California did that study, and yeah, it was 42%. Good memory. Just a suggestion for goal setting too. Can you hold this for a minute? Yeah. I'm going to draw you a diagram. I met these two guys a while ago, and their full-time job is actually making plans for companies, big companies like Toyota and like huge companies. And the way they do it is the exact same way they do life planning, and I think it's called the waterfall model. We'll set a lot of big goals for ourselves. We'll be like, I want to be rich. And that'll be your number one goal, the top of the thing you want to achieve. Or I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to finish reading these 10 books. But the way you set your goals actually really matters as well as to whether you're going to achieve them. So they told me to write down 10 things I wanted to achieve in my life. So I wrote down, like, I want a family. I want to have a good job, whatever it may be. And then they told me to rank them by importance. So like number 1 was family, number 2 was, I don't know, be healthy. And then the level of importance doesn't actually matter that much in which goals you should achieve first, because when you do the waterfall method, it's based on priority of what you actually need to do first to achieve the last thing. So
interesting.
Yeah. So if you, for example, I can't date properly if I were unhealthy and unfit and not happy with myself. So really, health should be number 1.
So it sets it up in chronological order for you.
Chronological order, exactly. So I would put health at number 1, and then maybe getting a job, or if you feel like you're not in a good psychological place to be dating, then going to a psychologist or finishing your university education. And then the very end goal would be family, even though that's the most important thing to you, because all of the things you do first, it could be really, really small things, like get organized. In fact, that was one of the first things on my list was get fit, get organized, because I can't achieve all of the things I want to do in my life if I haven't achieved those two things. And then it goes down, and you don't really even have to act towards the last things on the list because they just happen as a result of you achieving the first small goals.
That is just fascinating. So it helps you set up the building blocks to be able to accomplish ultimately what you want to. Well, I'm going to try this, Lauren.
The waterfall method. Look into it. Then number 4, this one, I think a lot of people will, obviously there's going to be pushback to this suggestion, but considering nihilism is literally defined as not feeling any sense of religion or deeper purpose to life, of course, number 4 is maybe looking into religion. And I think I'll let you take this away.
So as I mentioned before, I am Catholic. So for Catholics, Christians, you think of your ultimate purpose in life is obviously to get to heaven. So everything that you do in life, your material purpose, you try to line that up in accordance with things that would, of course, help you attain heaven. And it's very difficult to be a nihilist if you're Catholic because you genuinely believe in God. You believe that He's your ultimate purpose. So everything that you do on earth, even if the worst thing happens, even if you die, it doesn't matter because you would go to heaven after. Even if you go through the most ultimate suffering, you look at it as, okay, God is allowing this to happen to me so I can actually merit heaven, because obviously it's not a free ride. You don't get everything for free. So this is the way that we look at it. But then you have to genuinely believe, because if you don't genuinely believe, then of course you'll have doubts. I've gone through nihilistic periods when in my life, especially through my teens, and it's always when my faith is a bit wavering and I'm not really sure. When I am closer to God, like as I am now, it's definitely, I feel very far away from nihilism, and pretty much anything could happen. A lot of horrible things have happened this year, I will say, but at the end of the day, I don't give up hope because I do believe in God. So it's pretty much what happens on earth in the end doesn't really matter. It's more like the test before actually why we were created. So this is the way I look at it, and not to be all preachy or morally grandstanding. This is just for me. I would encourage other people to look into, religion, Christianity, if you're interested. But obviously, this isn't like a push to everyone needs to convert now or else. It's just my own personal thing.
I think it's a matter of sometimes people aren't even offered the opportunity to look into faith, since it's not something that our schools are really allowed to educate people on. Some people grow up in families that just reject religion altogether, and maybe it would be a good option for people and they just haven't had the opportunity or even outreach to look into it. We are a culture that we don't like to acknowledge that death happens. We don't like to acknowledge that death even exists. We don't like to even talk about these concepts of existential dread because it's terrifying. And we'd much rather just, if I just keep scrolling through Instagram and distracting myself and drinking, I can ignore the fact that there are these grander questions in life.
If you're religious, it's just a very different perspective. It's difficult to explain because I've never not believed. So those who do believe will understand what I'm saying, and those that don't won't, but maybe they'll be interested in looking into it or not. I don't think that if you're not religious, you're automatically a nihilist. I think people get through.
Yeah, I just think religion is a overlooked kind of solution for some people because it's just so rejected in our society and so attacked. But yeah, I'd say I've even when I've been not religious in my life, I've gone and sat in churches and prayed and just enjoyed that experience. So I do have lots of friends though that are not religious and have found ways to overcome their nihilism. And one thing that I found in a lot of friends who kind of have a more positive outlook on life is and this is tip number 5, is have an overarching story and narrative that you want to pursue. So I've got friends, for example, I have one friend, he's just absolutely nuts, but he enjoys his life because his whole kind of mission, and this is beyond the short-term goals we were talking about before, his whole mission is to make his life a work of art. You know him as well.
Yeah, Martin. He says, my boyfriend, Martin. So
this isn't Martin.
Yeah, but he thinks about it the exact same way. He says, I want to make my life a YouTube video that if you're watching, you wouldn't click away, essentially.
Right. So he sees everything he does when he wakes up in the morning, he wants to make it a work of art. Interesting, fascinating, beautiful. So he always thinks in very cinematic ways and enjoys life. And when he tells me stories, I'm just completely hooked because, yeah, he really, every act he does is a work of art. And other people, I know they've got this huge idea of I want to be a revolutionary. I want to change the world. Others, I mean, for my life, I watch a lot of I think about a lot of the movies I watched when I was younger. The Braveheart. No, not necessarily that even, although that's kind of one angle that sometimes I move towards. But looking at the end of a movie like It's a Wonderful Life and seeing him go through all of these psychological battles, trying to discover who he is, what he wants, and then at the end of the day coming home to this beautiful, happy family. That's something that's kind of like an overarching thing in my life. I want to overcome a lot of the political and psychological battles I have, and at the end of the day find and preserve a community in my life and people I love and people that are close to me. And that's kind of an overarching hope that I have for my life that keeps me going.
Actually, this mindset is very powerful. Psychologically, if we think something, for example, if we're very depressed, we'll even feel tired. We'll feel, oh, we don't even want to get out of bed. Your mind is just a very powerful tool. So if you think positively and like, I want to accomplish great things and are very motivated and have perseverance, psychologically, I think that you can accomplish so much more. Just if you keep some kind of control of your mind, which obviously is not an easy thing. I don't do it half the time, but I'm just saying that it has a lot of power there.
Yeah, now these aren't going to be solutions for everyone. Of course, there are different philosophers and psychologists you can look into that will have other suggestions. These are just things that have worked in my life. And I've come into deep existential terror and nihilistic dread before, and these are things that have just been able to pull me out of it. Of course, I would still suggest looking into proper philosophers if you really want to dive down this rabbit hole. And people who certainly have things like clinical depression, they're going to have to look probably for different solutions than someone like myself or Brittany. People who are more atheistic or people who are far more religious and still feeling the sense of nihilism, you're probably going to have to look into a few different routes. These are just things that have worked in my life.
Yeah, exactly. As Lauren said, we're not experts. We're not pretending to be. You can't watch this video and be cured of your nihilism. But it's more that we recognize it as a problem and we want to help more than just saying this is what's wrong with the world and wrong with millennials. We just really thought about it and we're considering, okay, what can we do to possibly suggest it could help anyone out. If it helps one person, then we made a good video. So.
But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. I hope maybe you try some of the tips in this. And yeah, don't totally take the black pill. Remember, even when you're at the absolute rock bottom, when everything feels like you can't fix anything, and this goes for both in your relationship life, in your political life, in your life in general, when you have absolutely nothing to lose,
you have everything to gain.
You have everything to gain. So just kind of keep that outlook, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye.